Hi everyone, this is week 2, right, of Visions in America from 1945 or since 1945. And last week we talked about pop culture, and this week we're talking about the title is called The Real Housewives of the 1950s, which is a cute little title, but we're really covering quite a bit more information than just the notion of like women at home in America. So it's a little misleading, okay? But a couple things we'll be looking at this week, right? When you look through it, we're going to look at pop music. Okay, and we're going to look at how music, like from the Supremes, Elvis, people of that time, what impact did it have on people? Because remember, what we're arguing, or I should say studying, but kind of putting forth the idea, is the notion that all of these things, these cultural things, are helping to kind of develop who Americans are, kind of helping Americans define who we are, shaping us, okay? So we're going to look at the music of the era, and that's a big part of it. The second thing we're going to look at is we're going to introduce, I mentioned it last week, but we're really going to take some time to look at the feminist movement this week. And I'll talk more about this in the live lecture. But the 3 stages of feminism and, you know, the kind of goals and roles of feminism and the whole movement. So we're going to look at that this week. Okay. The third thing we're going to look at is what the module sets we set up. It's called the medium of mass culture. And remember, mass culture and pop culture were kind of interchanging, kind of using together. So by medium, you know, we're looking at, of course, the music, but we're looking at film, we're looking at TV. TV, I'm going to argue, as we go on through the course, is probably the biggest or most influential thing in mass culture that really has an impact on us and how people view the world and kind of helps developing and shaping our identities and ideas, and magazines as well. But print media, excuse me, has kind of fallen by the wayside in modern times. Historically, it has had impact, right? But as we got more technologically sound, excuse me, that's really kind of taken over. But music still plays a big role. Film, TV still play a big role. We might say magazines are kind of replaced by online sources, but it's still there. So these mediums that kind of get these ideas out there that help us develop, that's important. Okay? And then the last thing, we're going to look at the historical political events that kind of help shape things. We're going to look at, and you read through, you're going to see the Chequers speech that Vice President Nixon makes as an appeal to the American public to kind of qualify him as an honest man and a good representative of government. You're going to look at the notion of the Edward R. Murrow and his kind of renunciation of McCarthy and these kind of events. Because again, TV is where these political events happen. You kind of see them. Events are happening all the time. But again, as I said, I'm going to argue that television kind of brings them to life and brings them to the forefront. But there's a lot of political events that kind of help shape us besides just a couple that I mentioned. So keep that in mind. That's really kind of your focus. So we're looking at music in particular. We're looking at feminism this week, bring a lot of things into it. We're looking at the mediums that kind of bring these ideas out to us. And then we're going to look at the political events as well. Okay? With the 2 assignments this week, and remember, this week there's a quiz. Week 2, there's a quiz. In the discussion, we look at what's called domestic containment. Again, that'll kind of be my focus in the live lecture. But this notion of, think about domestic containment, the notion of kind of protecting, kind of set the stage of protecting American culture. All right, not letting things kind of influence, get involved, and kind of undermine American culture, the notion. And say, we'll talk more about that. But that's your discussion post this week. What is this domestic containment? What's it successful? Can it even be used today, maybe is a way to think about that. And then the writing assignment, we get into what they call girl groups. So we take that feminist idea and the music idea, and we see how did women use it? How did the girl groups, if you will, or the women of pop music use that medium to kind of bring forth the notion of women's ideas and women's issues? Okay? All right, so I look forward to the papers this week. Again, the discussions as we kind of get moving along. All right, so this week we introduce a lot of new topics, but again, it's all part of this notion of one week to the next, just building on American culture and how that culture has kind of shaped us as Americans since 1945. All right, have a good week. Bye now.